I am going to invite next Mr. Pisith Horn from Cambodia. He works for Hagar International, which is an NGO, and it's been established for quite some time in Cambodia. And they're also working with a very challenging segment of children who have, quite a number of them have been victims of trafficking. They're based currently in an urban center. It's another urban model at this point in Phnom Penh. And they've also been engaged in other forms of child labor, selling things on the street, and have suffered other forms of abuses. They have a community learning center model of providing services to these children. And I will hand over to you, Mr. Pisith, to please elaborate on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, this is Pisith. I'm education manager from Hagar International. Today is a privilege to be here and talk and present you about our education approach for the survivor of the trafficking and abuse child in Cambodia. Okay, and I would like you to know that the presentation will cover on the component of education only, and our Hagar International, we work for the whole journey, and we cover 4 components. And let me introduce you a little bit about a core component. One is protections, and we ensure that all the victims of trafficking and abuse and labors come to Hagar. They are receiving the free, violent environment living, and they are ready for the community reintegration. And second is recovery, and we have the strong team regarding the counseling service, and they provide the counseling for the traumatized clients. As you know that all the victims of the trafficking, they are violent abuse, and they have their bad mirror or something in their life, so that they need to get recovery by through the component. Second component is recovery. Second one is the education and economic empowerment. So education is the one that we believe that education is the power and the key that bring them back to their dream and bring them get to their hope, or they can have their dream for their life. Okay, and the third one is reintegration. So when they are ready for the communication, so our teams of the case management and do the case follow up and help them to assist them in the community base where they are living, and we ensure that they are ready and for the community learning environment. Okay, so let me tell you why Hagar is existing and how the component of education can help. So here's the session contents. So one is the root cause of why there's huge numbers of the trafficking and abuse or the out of school children in Cambodia. There are a lot of the percentage. So one thing is the impact of genocide. That you may know that about 35 years ago that we have a nightmare regarding with the killing field, and million of people dead because of that. And the second one is I would like you to know that the education and economic condition in Cambodia currently, and who is at risk in Cambodia, and Hagar story. So I would like to know the Hagar story as well. And the community learning centers and nutrition programs, trauma-informed care classroom, community-based education support, challenge and opportunity. And hopefully I can place the video for you, the whole journey for Hagar, but I wish that you can log to the website of Hagar and can access it. So what are the impacts of genocide? And more than 2 million people were dead during that time, the period, and I'm not. My age is not the period of that, and I heard from imams and other people that said that a lot of the effects of the Khmer rules is still the impact, the traumatized experience is still in their heads, and they sometimes they have a they cannot they cannot survive, or they should not enjoy their life in present, even though there are no they have already peace, and politician is much better than the last time. So here is like I mentioned, is more than 2 million people that was dead at that time, and the education system are very poor. More than 2 million, and including the educated people, are already killed. And when we started after 1979, and no one can set up the system for helping develop the human resource at the times, and the lack of proper nutrition, and people dead because of no food to eat, and they have they need to do more work on the days, and that is the thing. And the child that are already gone, and they don't home, they don't have home, and no place to live in here. So extremely poverty, and of course, the poverty is the root cause of that, and they make the child live on not enough the food for eat, and no school to attend, and no parents to live with. So here the education condition in Cambodia, you can see. Currently, the literacy rate for the youth is 91.48%, and the throughout primary is 8.3%, and throughout secondary school is 18, and graduating rate in primary. So I would like you to know that 40% of the students are finishing secondary school, only 40%, and the 25 of the graduate age that just only graduate from the secondary school. Yeah, and recently the grade 12 exam, because of we have the reform, and then the government worked so hard, and then we have the percentage of the pass rate only 55%, and it only 35% that much better than last year's. So we just only have a reform for 2 years. Economic condition in Cambodia. So you can see 78% of the people, 15 million people in Cambodia live in the rural area, and 3 million people, it means 19% of them are live on $1.25 per day. So you can imagine so how much you cost for your breakfast in the morning, and he can earn per day is only 1.25. That is the huge that is the amount that we can say cannot survive. Okay, 8 million people is not in the poverty line, and is not very poor. So who is at risk here? So I would like you to know about impoverished, undereducated literacy, literate, and undocumented migrant, and the migrant one, and elite minority people. So 36% of the children working in the child labors, based on the UNICEF in 2016, and here. So let me go to Hagar's story a little bit. So we started in 1994, and we start our program along the side. And currently we are looking for to reintegrate our programs to the community setting. because we know that the community-based approach that is the long sustainable strategy for the youth, for the victims, and NGO cannot work for a long time, for last forever. So community learning center here is we set up in 2004, and because we want all the victims that are admitted to Hagar to receive the quality of education for primary, and you know when they admit to Hagar, they are not able to access other education outside Hagar because of they are not eligible for outside, they are at risk, and the offenders are trying to look for to get them back to the areas that they are living, or try to prevent them from the court case or something. So catch-up education to set up for them to learn, even though they are living in shelter and they receive the quality of primary education catch-up in here. So hopefully they receive the quality of catch-up education, and they are ready to reintegrate to low income school in the community. Okay, and second one is what is the purpose of the catch-up education is age appropriate and grade level. So we have the 3-year system that can bring them back to even though they are learning primary education to catch up, and they are able to complete the 3-year system, and then they go more back to lower secondary school. Currently, we have many child, they are already in university, and then they already as an employer and work for Hagar as well. That is our foremost clients that receiving the catch-up education. So since we started a project, is more than 850 or 850 children are receiving our education and reintegrate back to the community. So the component of catch-up education, the literacy and numeracy is the major one, and we try to ensure that they are able to do the numeracy in a basic way, even though they cannot go further to higher educations. And literacy here we try to ensure they can read and write the letters of the letters. As you know that the victims of the trafficking is not the younger age and already 15 or 16. So when they go back to the catch-up, it means that they can have a second chance to go back to the formal education to higher education or something. So trauma-informed care, I mentioned earlier, all the victims they have the experience with the traumatized, and we set up the trauma-informed to ensure that they are neutral and they are happy to receive the quality education in the classroom. You may receive the session in the morning from Susan regarding with the trauma. You may know that the trauma very impacts negatively to the process of learning at school, in the classroom setting. So a positive and protected learning environment. So you may know the component of our whole journey. So protections, that we ensure that the client are protected from the violence, even though our staff are receiving the orientation, the training regarding with how to protect the traumatized clients and how to avoid types of abuse. Extracurricular activity, we include for the curriculum, and we have a library for learning to assess the reading skill. We have the computer class that are able to produce the assignment for the classwork, and we also have the tournament, the football tournament, the exercise, the sport that they are able to engage themselves with other teams, other organizations that have the same teams. And we also have English class for the fundamental communication regarding with the foreigners, with others. In Cambodia, English is a second. It can be second language, or it's a more important language for the employment. If you cannot understand English, so it probably hard to get employed because more foreigners come. But the more, sometimes, you know, it causes, the tourists are increasing, and the level of the trafficking is increasing as well. The nutrition support, in here, we aim to improve the nutrition. You may see the Pol Pot regimes, and we have a shortage of the nutrition. So in here, Hagar set up the nutrition program and looking for to improve the nutrition that every child shortage in their growth. Yeah. Here is a quote. You can yeah. So you can see the effect of the traumatize, the body, the memory, and relationship and behavior and learning, emotion and brain. That is something that affects by the trauma. So when we apply the trauma-informed care classroom, that is to ensure that the increase the level of quality of teachings in the classroom are better, are nice. And students who are loved at home, it means that come to school to learn. But the students who aren't come to school to be loved. So our teachers apply that way. So the community-based learning, family assessment and follow-up by the school staff, case management and counseling, like I mentioned earlier. And we also work at the community school teachers and administration for the student needs at the community levels. And we also assist with the school material, uniforms, school bags, and other material for the school settings. And also the tutor fee support. Non-formal school fee in Cambodia is very hard for the most marginalized to afford in the schooling setting. So that is we try to assist them in regarding with that. Scholarship for university. And usually we have received the 10 scholarship from Prime Minister Hun Sen for our clients. We statistic a little bit, and we try to balance with the girl and boys of the clients. Okay, the challenge is trauma-informed. The challenge is trauma-informed care every year. Yeah. And sorry because I have so many time and I plan for 20 minutes, so right now it's only 15. So that.
No, you've been going for 25 now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Auckland.